Well, here we are on Inauguration Day, the 47th President of America being sworn in today. And joining us now to discuss this and more is Lisa Daftari, our U.S. correspondent from the Foreign Desk in Los Angeles. It's a historic day, Lisa.
Yeah, quite a historic day. And within hours, what an about face for the United States of America. Right
Yeah.
now, I have muted Donald Trump, who is making his initial statements about, what the changes will be about drilling, about the military, reinstating those who lost their jobs because of the COVID vaccine with full pay. I mean, you name it. I mean, stopping the wars, securing the borders, really, really emphasizing and signing a lot of these things into law today, including three very, very important just legislative movements about the border and about stopping the cartels. And he wants to really start by emphasizing his position on these very important topics.
Okay. Let me ask you, are there any surprise attendees? I know they, of course, had to shrink everything down to like, what, 600 people, something like that, in the rotunda of the Capitol building, as opposed to being outdoors with thousands and thousands of people. Are there any high-profile snubs of not attending for Trump's inauguration today? Anything like that going on?
Well, many people have been invited alone without their spouses because of the space limitations, of course. Many people, like myself, canceled because of the inclement weather. There's a blizzard going on in Washington, D.C. right now, and icy roads. And as you know, when these things happen, they close off all the roads. So you have to either walk to where you're going or, try to figure your way out. This is an unprecedented year. The last time they had something more outside the box, so to speak, was in 1985 with the second inauguration of Ronald Reagan. And they're comparing the presidencies to the two of them very much so in different regards. But today, we did see many of the former presidents attend. We see the vice president and her husband. We see the president, obviously, the ex-president, and Jill Biden, who are there as well. A peaceful transfer of power, which is really nice to see. And of course, President Obama is in attendance without Michelle, and that was a statement that was made. Michelle wanted that statement out there. She wanted the world to know that she is not supportive and she is not going to attend. So she's there alone. And we know that they had a very chummy conversation, President Obama and President Trump, at Carter's funeral. So that was an interesting way to kind of kick off this presidency as one that is a little different than his first term in the sense that he is being friendly, he's trying to unite, definitely trying to bridge the gaps between left and right.
Yeah, and I think it is important, for Trump to extend an olive branch and so forth, and there to be some smiles and handshakes and so forth. So hopefully that happens. But of course, after the day, real life kicks in. So, I mean, I assume there will be some anti-Trump demonstrations taking place. I understand there's some of these taking place across the country as well, right? Anything that would be unexpected today?
It's interesting. They are worried about his safety security because of the many
Yeah.
assassination attempts that have been made on his life, one almost actually killing him. And as he actually mentioned in his speech that he actually believes that God spared him in order for
Hmm.
him to come back and, quote, make America great again. So he does carry the weight of that with him, that there are people out there, not just one, but multiple attempts that have been made on his life. This is different this time around. There will always be a segment of the population that is the never Trumpers, the Trump derangement syndrome that we talk about, that, people who are just not willing to accept him regardless of what he's promising to do and how beneficial he may be to the country, or just hearing him out. Even if he tries to, as you said, extend that olive branch this time around, there will always be that segment of the population. But what I am seeing is that the middle of the road Democrats are very much hopeful this time around. I think they want to give him a chance. I think that, and if you want to make the comparison again to Carter versus Reagan coming in 81, we had a similar situation where the economy was so abysmal, where you had foreign entanglements that were just not being resolved, and then people were looking for some fresh blood to come in there and detangle. And that is what Trump is promising to do, whether it comes to Ukraine and Russia. As we saw, the hostages already released, or starting to release with the ceasefire that was announced between Israel and Hamas. Obviously, the economy, gas prices, food prices, grocery prices. So I think that there's a bit more of a chance that's being given to him by his opponents. So I think he is ready to deliver, and of course, hoping to bridge this gap.
Okay. Well, he's going to get right to it. He's promising day one, right? Issuing pardons for those convicted in the January 6th protests, for one thing. And then also talking about shutting down the U.S.-Mexico border, even bringing in military power to do that, suspend refugee admissions, and, wow, begin the mass deportation of illegal immigrants. Wow. Okay. Do you want to maybe touch on that a bit? I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, so he's definitely focused on our borders. And it's not just the southern border. You guys in Canada will be happy to hear it's also the northern border, which they're obviously they trickle in
Yeah.
north upwards, and obviously they're coming into the country from the south. This is something that is a long time coming. And what I want to remind people is that you don't juxtapose this illegal immigration and the influx of millions of people coming in who are, in the best case of scenarios, risking their lives and then having to sleep on the streets because our resources just can't absorb it. And in the worst case scenario, they end up being criminals. So imagine your daughter or son killed, raped, the robberies, the arsons here in California, for example. When you see them being either criminals or on the FBI's most wanted list, you want to stop that. But it doesn't mean we're stopping immigration into our country. It means we want to stop illegal immigration into our country. We want to focus on legal immigration into our country. How about those people who are standing in line and doing it the right way and filling out the paperwork and have to wait years? These individuals are cutting the line. So if you actually care about people who are well-intentioned and want to get into the country, well, then we need to stop the illegal flow of these people into the country. And that is why Donald Trump's very much fixated on the southern border, the northern border, and also stopping the drug cartels from operating. So sending the military to the southern border is the first step in doing so. And as I said, he wants to do this on day one, to show his commitment to this very, very important issue. This is not just an immigration issue, it's a national security issue. We know that there have been thousands of people that have come into the country that have been on our most wanted list, on either the foreign terror list or on the FBI's most wanted list. So this is something that we're doing to protect everybody who lives here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, in one sense, I think there's going to be a lot of Democrats who would be happy about that too, reducing crime and so forth. And getting rid of immigrants that are causing all kinds of problems that way. Not every immigrant is a problem necessarily, of course, but the mass deportation, though, I mean, that's a whole process in and of itself that is not going to be easy to do, and it's going to have a lot of opposition to it. Do you see, in your thoughts, I mean, how long would that take? What kind of obstacles are going to be in the way?
The first, and he mentioned this in his speech this morning, is the first step in that is to take away the catch and release program that we have right now. So if you're, it's not just that they're going through the streets trying to find, every migrant who's here and who's not documented. That we don't have law enforcement manpower to do such a thing. We wouldn't do such a thing. But it is to say that if you are caught and you are committing a crime, you will not be released because you're undocumented, or there won't be that kind of grace given to those individuals. So we do know that many of these migrants have been caught, whether it's in New York City or Los Angeles or in there are different states that have criminal records of migrants committing these acts. Then they will be deported. We don't have to deal with them here in our legal system. We can deport them to where they come from. We know for a fact, for example, that there are gang members here from Venezuela, from Chile.
Yep.
There are groups of them coming here, what they call it, robbery tourism. They come here to rob the home and then just get back on a flight to go out. These are the kinds of things that we need to crack down on. And again, everyone will benefit from it, left, right, and center.
Okay. Well, climate change is, of course, always a big issue between Democrats and Republicans and so forth. So he said he would end the electric vehicle mandate and scrap climate subsidies. And I noticed that America's 6 largest banks have decided to pull out of the Net Zero Banking Alliance. It's a group that I understand works to align financing with that goal of net zero by 2050. So, I mean, some analysts say this is an attempt to ward off anti-woke attacks from right-wing politicians. So your thoughts on that?
It was interesting because I tried to see if the camera would pan to Elon Musk's face when he talked about the electrical vehicle mandates. Obviously, Elon Musk being the owner of Tesla, the
Yeah.
number one manufacturer of electrical vehicles. The statement that Donald Trump made after announcing that is that so that people can get the car that they want and that we could keep car auto manufacturers here in this country employed and working. Look, that is a group of individuals who Donald Trump relied on their vote. That's something that is being announced. I think he wants to stand behind American manufacturing across the board. He talked about drilling, for example, as well. So keeping that in mind, that he wants making America great again, keeping our economy robust, keeping our manufacturers employed and open. That goes along with that. So yes, the climate will be addressed at some other point, but that's not a priority for this administration. That's been something that has been said from the get-go. So I think he's trying to really prioritize American manufacturing, bringing jobs back to the United States, making our enemies pay their share. So we don't want to keep Chinese manufacturers and factories open. We want to keep American factories open. So I think that goes hand in hand with what he's talking about today.
Right. Now, this ties in a bit potentially with Canada, right? So again, removing the restrictions on oil and gas exploration and so forth. So, I mean, we've got a lot of it here, right, in Canada. So depending what happens with Canada's response to the tariff situation and, is Trump going to hammer Canada with 25% tariffs? And of course, he's very verbose and so forth. Doesn't always follow through on that with the threats, but he could, right? We just don't know. So anything you're hearing there other than, I mean, I did hear that, it's not going to happen on day one. They're going to do a bit of research into this, right?
The way that Donald Trump spoke before coming to office today was very much to make serious threats so that our neighbors, Canada, Mexico, would come to the table and begin the conversation. What he does want to do is use his power, use his position to leverage better relationships with North, with South, and with everyone else. His positioning, even before he became president, he's been talking about this in the 80s and the 90s. He would go on morning news shows and say, other nations are not paying their fair share. That's been his platform. I think that's why he became president, because he wants to make the playing field fair in this regard. So he wants Canada to come and start talking to us so that we can work better together, that we can compromise, so that we can collaborate, so we can keep the borders safe, so we can have better trade between the two partners. So I do think, short of Canada becoming the 51st state, I think that there will be a conversation, a friendly conversation. We're seeing the same thing with Mexico. The thing that I have seen, and this is coming from a person who is just really studying foreign policy more than anything else, the thing I have seen is that the way that Donald Trump has approached the presidency this time around has made our friends take a step forward and our enemies take a step back. And that's something that we always want to see. It's going to keep the free world, those people who want to see terrorism gone, want to see socialism gone, they want to work together in prosperity. Those nations have taken a step forward to work alongside the United States. And the years that we don't have that, the last 4 years, the Obama years, we saw the opposite happening. We garnered more. There's more debt, and there was, less collaboration, and we had more wars, and we had more chaos. And let's give this a chance and see what the next 4 years bring us.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting. I mean, we don't have time to get into all of it, but I mean, making it official U.S. policy that there's only 2 genders, male and female. Who knew, right? These kinds of things are going to stir up all kinds of controversy. But again, I think so many, again, including Democrats, middle of the road Democrats, go, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like common sense, right? So hopefully a lot of these kind of things that, don't go to any extremes, I guess, on either side, but that are just common folk, common sense policies are going to bring some good about both America and Canada.
Right. And I do hope that Donald Trump is able to articulate these things in a way that focuses on the main point and doesn't make him sound like someone who's either out of touch or politically incorrect. He often does. So by saying that there's only two genders, that was buttressed to another comment he made about the military and to bring back personnel. And, our military has suffered with woke politics.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, and boy, it's even worse here in Canada. I don't have time to get into all of it there, but yeah, hopefully a bit of common sense coming back into all of that. So, up against the clock, it's going to be very interesting to see what the next few weeks will bring about with Trump in charge. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Lisa Daftari from the Foreign Desk in Los Angeles.